The purpose of this video is to give students additional instruction about how to create historical arguments. When completing historical argument assignments, students are required to make claims based on evidence that they learned while studying in the unit. Each historical argument assignment will ask students to use the PEAS writing strategy. PEAS is an acronym, as you can see on the screen, that stands for Point, Evidence, Analysis, and Sources. Each historical argument assignment will be graded based on a rubric that is centered around the PEAS strategy. Please pay close attention to the PEAS strategy handout and make sure that each element of the PEAS historical analysis writing prompt is used in your argument. This is the historical argumentation rubric that will be used to grade your historical argument assignments. If you analyze it closely, there are 4 parts. Each part is worth 3 points. Each of the 4 parts correlates with one of the acronyms in the PEAS writing strategy. The first part is the point, that usually is your topic sentence. The second part is the evidence that you choose to use from the sources, both secondary and primary, that you read in the unit. The third part is analysis, which is where you use historical evidence and explain how and why it proves your point. The fourth part of the rubric requires that you use more than one source to complete your argument. The Colonial Virginia arguments are now on the screen. Please be sure to read the argument directions closely, paying close attention to the historical question and the specific requirements for your argument. This argument assignment asks you to consider the question, what was life like in colonial Virginia? In order to create an answer, you should consider what information you learned about colonial Virginia from readings number 1 and number 2 and the Colonial Virginia documents A and B. It is important when you craft an historical argument to use a little time to plan your writing. On the screen now is a sample outline that I created to answer the prompt, what was life like in colonial Virginia? You may notice at the very top is my point. Based on the readings in the unit and the documents, I chose to answer the question with the statement, life in colonial Virginia was adventurous. You'll notice the second level down is the evidence that I'm using to prove that point. First, that the colonists in Virginia faced the risk of death. Second, that the colonists in Virginia had the opportunity to explore new land. And third, that people who lived in Virginia could meet new people. All 3 of these pieces of evidence lead to or support my point, which is that life was adventurous. And the third level down is where I actually do the analysis of that evidence. This is where I explain how and why this evidence supports my point. For the analysis section of your argument, it is important that you pay attention to the 4 C's of historical analysis as outlined on the PEAS writing strategy handout. It is important for you, when you're choosing evidence, to explain the evidence using one of these historical analysis examples. Many students will find it easy to use the first one, which is connect your ideas to the claim. To do this, it's just important that you further explain your evidence with historical details and descriptions. However, you may choose to use one of the other C historical analysis. You may choose to take information or evidence and use a compare and contrast strategy. You might also choose to explain the causes and effects of history, and certainly you could use context, which is where you explain and analyze historical evidence by also describing what else was happening during that time period. By outlining your argument, you are ensuring that you, number 1, think thoroughly about what your argument will be, and secondly, think about what the evidence is from your learning that will support your point, and also how you will analyze that evidence. When you've finished with this outline activity, then you take this outline and craft an historical argument using sentences. This is what my outline looks like in sentence form. You'll notice it's written as a paragraph. You'll notice it uses sentences and punctuation. And finally, you'll notice that it is one paragraph long. There is no length requirement for an argument assignment. However, the shorter your argument is, the less likely it will score well on the rubric.